Patty, I'm hoping you can tell us about your experiences that led you to create 3 words, I need help.
Yep. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety after a failed attempt in February last year, in 2015, and I had a pretty rough time trying to work out ways of managing this illness, and reached out to a good friend, family, and they'd done all they can to help, obviously, and it still, to me, didn't feel like it was working. I felt like this is something that should be gone by now. A couple of weeks later, I felt I didn't really understand that I was going to be with this for the rest of my life, just basically learning to manage it. But one day I woke up and my wife had gone to work, and it was just me and the kids at home, and I woke up to not wanting to get out of bed, which was pretty normal, I suppose, but this day was just probably one of the worst, and one of my, I suppose you could say, survival techniques was to reach for my phone and flick through my photos, to see the photos of my kids and when they're happy and not fighting, and see my beautiful wife and my family, and just basically ways of boosting my spirits. And this one day, instead of going into the gallery, I accidentally pressed the video button and found myself talking to my phone. It just naturally happened. It was just a natural instinct to start talking, and I found myself, I don't even know how long I spoke for, but however long it was, it made me feel a lot better. It made me take that next step to get out of bed, and that's when I decided that I've got a couple of mates that have the same thing with them. Maybe I should just start up a nice little Facebook page and dedicate it to basically opening up and utilising the camera to being able to speak and things like that. So I put out a bit of a suggestion on my own Facebook page with a video of myself, and I got a lot of feedback from some good friends and things. So I thought, well, I'll do it. I'll get onto it, and created the page 3 words, I need help. I come up with that because it was a headline that I was in the local newspaper in Wagga, and that was the headline. And I thought, well, that's perfect. It's a great way to describe people that need to seek help, and utilising them 3 words. And so I started the page up. Basically added all my friends, and then from there on they shared it. I shared the page as well, and within a fortnight it was global, and it's now currently sitting on 2,600 people. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal, the responses received. So,
and that's how we found you.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
the film
that's right.
Suicide: The Ripple Effect, we found you on your 3 words page,
Yeah.
and you sent us a message when we put out a call for people to share how suicide had a ripple effect on their lives.
Yep.
And you shared that message with us so kindly with your 2-minute video, and absolutely within minutes, people were responding to that video, saying how it helped them. and so I think it was a perfect transition into getting to say, okay, I need to come out to Australia. I need to meet this guy. First of all, give him a hug for all he's doing, say thank you, and get him involved with this idea of spreading a message that you can stay here with having been in the past in suicidal crisis, or dealing with such pain that you don't think you can go on. You can stay, and you can find through, I think really, when you're ready, hard work to stabilize with whatever mental or behavioral struggle you're going through. Tell us about 2015, what you've described in the news and the media and on your page as the worst year of your entire life. Go ahead and express that to us.
So, yeah, I'm a married man with 2 beautiful children. Naturally, you can't get anything better when it comes to your wedding day and your children being born. But by far, 2015 was by far the worst year of my life. It was the darkest time I've ever had. and the scariest year of my life too. The fact that I did have that failed attempt. Yeah, well, absolutely it was. But in saying that, I mean, being a married man with 2 beautiful children, 2009 was my favourite year. 2010, when my little girl was born, was then my favourite year. And then 2012, when my son was born, was then my favourite year. So basically, within a space of 3 years, I just had 3 fantastic years. And I never thought that, you know, you'd have an experience like I did. And yeah, 2015 is absolutely 100% by far the worst year I've ever had. It was a year where I was diagnosed with this illness. I was the year that...
Sorry, what illness?
With mental illness and depression. With depression and anxiety, sorry. And then the list of things that follow that. But it was also the year where I had my failed attempt. And
Attempt to take your life.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a very, very scary moment in my life. And yeah, it's also a year of learning a lot as well. I mean, I learned a lot about myself last year. A lot about my family. I realised who my true friends were. I realised that I wasn't alone, and you know, I realised that I can beat this. 2016 is my year. I'm going to make it my year, and I cannot wait to pursue the dreams that I've got. So it's going to be fantastic.
What are some of the dreams and goals you wish to achieve in the coming years?
Yeah. Well, I always wanted to work with other people that had this same illness, and obviously it was more of a dream than a reality until you contacted me, and I got to hear the stories of all the amazing guys that are involved in this, and it made me realise that it made me realise even more I'm not alone, and there are people out there that need help, and there are people out there that need to hear from someone who's got the lived experience and who's been in that incredibly dark place. And that's where I call myself in. You know, I'm just a standard everyday Aussie guy that wants to go out there and do his bit for society and try and help out in any way I can. I really want to touch base with the rural community of Australia. I want to hit in on the farmers and the farming communities that are so heavily affected by suicide due to drought-stricken reasons and you know, unable to feed their crops and things like unable to feed their stock and things like that. So that's my main aim. But yeah, it's one of the biggest things that I've sort of come to grips with is the fact that you've invited me to be a part of this film. And the fact that I will be in America in March for NatCon 16, which is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be a real eye-opener for me because I know Americans don't take their conferences lightly.
And this is the big one. This is the National Council for Behavioral Health in Las Vegas.
Yep.
Don't gamble.
No.
It's not worth it. And it's in Las Vegas, and it's a place where 5,000 to 6,000 behavioral health professionals come together to listen to some of the greatest minds in the field of brain and behavioral health. Mental Health First Aid will be there, where the organization that helped bring it here from Australia. I think it started in Australia.
Yep.
Mental Health First Aid. Thank you, Australia. And Mental Health First Aid is a toolkit that schools are using, organizations, companies, to teach how to cease the signs of someone struggling with mental pain, bring them to a safer place, and get them to find, live in, and keep recovering. So it's fantastic. So you'll be seeing all that good stuff and more when you go there, and I'll be seeing you then as well. Patty, I want to know how your wife feels about this work you've been doing, and people like her, and have you found, you know, be truthful, have you found a great deal of support in doing this work and being so public, and have you also found some challenges? So let's start with where the support comes from around you and what the challenges are.
Well, so yeah, my wife is 100% positive and supportive in everything I ever do, which is one of her greater attributes. She's an amazing person, and the fact that she's put up with me for this long is amazing in its own right. The hardest thing I've ever had to do was tell her that I had a failed suicide attempt. I don't regret telling her though, because I believe it's also brought us a lot closer. She is my number one support network. I go to her for a lot, but I also don't try and burden her too much with it. Burden's a bad choice of word, but I don't try and lump it all on top of her, because she's got to live her life as well, and you know, it's a matter of keeping the your five points of support network, which is something that I was taught with my psychiatrist. Cheryl Connell, you're amazing. So basically, my number one is my wife. She's there for me all the time. My number two would be my parents, my mum and dad, John and Vicky. Absolutely amazing people. Much like myself, had no idea about mental illness. They've done so much to try and help themselves to understand it a lot more. They've watched your video numerous times, and they've also been online and looked a lot up. Then I moved to my sisters. Both my sisters are in the same boat. One's, you know, she's had no idea. She was completely blasé to what it was, but she's taken the right steps, and she's actually helped people as well, which is another great thing. So, my kids, they are at the moment only 5 and 2. Sorry, 5 and 3 is right. 5 and 3.
One of those.
Yeah, definitely. One's 5, that's for sure. But they ask me a lot of questions. Obviously, I'm still medicated daily. They ask me quite a lot why Daddy is still taking his tablets and things like that. But a little bit of a suggestion to anybody out there that's battling this illness, this mental illness and depression, etc. If you've got children, don't be afraid to tell them. Do not be afraid to tell them that you're not 100%. You're not feeling well and things like that. And go out and hire the movie Inside Out.
Exactly.
It makes them understand so much more. It is fantastic. And my little girl now is, as I said, she's 5, she's 6 very soon. She tells me that, you know, I've got a little bit of sadness in my head, a little bit too much sadness, and I need more joy. And you know, little things like that, obviously it brings me to tears, but my 5-year-old understands a lot more than a lot of people my age. And so, you know, having them guys as my support network is fantastic. Yes, they can't talk back or they can't give me any advice, but it's nice just to talk to them. And then my 5th one is my dog. I love the fact that I have my dog. It's beautiful little Kelly the Kelpie. She's amazing. But the best thing about having a dog is you can sit there and you can tell that anything you like. They will sit there and look at you with love in their eyes. They may not understand a single word you're saying, but they're sitting there staring at you, and that makes you think that they're listening. And so they're my 5 support, my support beacons. And then I've got friends as well. So.
Patty.
Yes.
So you briefly talked about the movie Inside Out that just came out. Let's describe that more. The movie Inside Out is a 3D animation film made by Pixar.
Yep.
And it is about the mind of a child understanding the depth of sadness, pain, struggle, strife, and emotions that lead to their moods.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk briefly about that, because I have been chatting up a Pixar friend of mine, and what he expressed was that they had thought about initially talking about calling it depression and mental illness and all these labels that are given to the world as we see them today, however true they may be. And Pixar went back to the drawing board and said, no, let's talk about this in a way that a 5-year-old can comprehend.
Yep.
So the idea of some child being able to emphasize or articulate to their parents, Mom, Dad, I have a little bit of sadness in my heart, maybe a little bit more than happiness right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, your children are able to say right now, at least your 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And in the film, this is expressed so that a 5-year-old mind could articulate to their parents the pain they're in.
Yep.
Because let's not be naive. Children are in pain too when they have hurt feelings or emotions that hunker them down or give them real stress. And oftentimes the world thinks that how can a child comprehend pain, but that's exactly the opposite.
Yep.
The youngest suicide in America was from a 4-year-old. So let's be clear, it's very real that children can suffer mentally and behaviorally just as adults. It's just a different level and a different kind of suffering, and they need to be able to express their pain to their parents. And so this film, I think, allowed kids all over the world to say, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And it allowed parents to say, that's what that is. Let's come together and be in a better concert with our kids and better communication.
Yep.
So why don't you describe how that film affected you and your kids?
Right, so I heard about the film when I was seeing my psychologist, and she mentioned, because we were talking about my kids, and my kids are asking me a lot of questions and things like that, and I basically said to her, how do I answer them? I don't know how to answer them. I don't feel 100%, obviously, and I don't want to burden them, unfortunately that's the word we use a lot, burden them with my problems. And she said to me, there's a fantastic movie just brought out, Disney Pixar, and we all know Pixar do amazing films. It's called Inside Out. And I said, oh yeah, I've heard of this. I've heard of this film. And she said, you'll love it. Your kids will love it because it's animation. But there was so much thought and so much research that went into this film. They had top psychologists, top psychiatrists working with the people at Pixar to get the film up and running. And she said her daughter absolutely loved it. And so, yeah, as soon as I heard that, I naturally needed to get this film for my kids. And it helped me to understand it a lot too. I know for a simple fact that not only did my 5-year-old and like my little girl, Charlotte, she watched it and she loved it, made her understand a little bit. My 3-year-old, he loves the movie. I don't think he really understands it yet though. He still asks me why Mufasa dies in The Lion King. But he will one day. And even my mother, she watched it and it helped her to understand it as well. So it's just one of them films that, and like I say, Pixar have always done an amazing film. We all love Toy Story and all them films, but for a 5-year-old to understand what's going on in my head better than I did, better than my mother did, just made me realise that that's how good this film actually is.
Yeah.
So,
and efforts like it to have a social conversation
Yeah.
erupt from a film that's supposed to be called a cartoon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and Patty, one last thing we're going to go over real quick before we move on to the next segment here. Patty, we talked about the successes. We talked about the people who supported you in all your efforts. Tell me about some of the challenges since coming out and talking about your brain health.
Yep. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges was getting people to understand what was wrong with me. Getting people to realise that the Pat they knew wasn't the real Pat that they, that's behind closed doors. I'm a very fun and outgoing person. I've got a personality as tall as I am. I'm 6'3", so that's how I'm
It's
full of
taller, by
personality.
the way.
Exactly, and excuse me, and I just love life. That's what everybody's seen. Behind closed doors, it was always a different story. Nobody's seen me fly off the handle for no reason. In other words, get mad for no reason. Nobody's seen me in a corner on my own, away from the world, crying for no reason. And nobody's seen just the emotions that I had at home. And it was hard for me to work that out too. And I always knew there was something wrong with me, but I never knew what it was. And being the typical Australian male, I always just thought, I'm not going to worry about it, it'll go away. Since being diagnosed, I've removed people from my life, people who I thought were good friends. People that told me to get over it, told me you'll be right. It's not like that. I've made a point of removing them from my life. I've blocked them on my telephone. They can't actually contact me because I don't want that negativity. And yeah, I mean, it surprised me. The hardest thing I had to do was tell my dad. My dad and I have got a fantastic relationship now. But I honestly thought that I would have lost contact with him because of it. But that obviously didn't happen. We're closer now than we ever have been, and I love my dad with all my heart. But it scares you because you do have to get rid of some people in your life. You do have to remove yourself from all things negative. One of the hard things to do is walk down the street and walk past a conversation where people are saying something about it, and it's such a negative thing because, one, you don't want to intrude on someone else's conversation, and two, you don't know if this person can fight or not. So you don't want to, go in there and say, "Come on, guys, it's not that easy." I had a moment at work a couple of weeks ago where the conversation was brought up at Smoko, and I had to interject because I could feel myself getting worked up, and I just had to say to him, "Look, it's not that easy." And there was a fantastic article on Robin Williams saying that he died by suicide, and this article was saying that he didn't. He actually died by depression. And I basically explained that to them, and whether they took it all on board, I don't know, but I think I might have made them that little bit more wiser as to what it is. There's negativity everywhere you go. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, there's always going to be a form of negativity. Unfortunately, as much as we try to stamp it out, I don't think it'll ever be stamped out. I think it's just going to be something that we can only really minimise as opposed to stamping it out.
And as advocates for change, we can move around that negativity, push that to the side, and keep trying to help people we care about and love.
Yep, exactly right.
Patty,
Yep.
right on, brother. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.